What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. This is my full card breakdown and prediction video for UFC Mexico. We have Brandon Moreno going against Brandon Royval.
I need all the wins, yeah. Harder than all that is. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out.
And we are back for another full card breakdown and prediction video. This week we are breaking down an absolute banger of a card. We are in Mexico City. We are out of the Apex once more. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to this card. This card, to me at least, has like a pay-per-view feel to it. I mean, we have two 5-round fights. Brandon Moreno, Brandon Royval is a very fun, main event. We got Yair Rodriguez going against Brian Ortega. And then on top of that, just a ton of bangers, throughout the card. So yeah, really looking forward to watching it. Looking forward to breaking it down. Before we do so, if you guys could please do me a couple favors, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Be sure to check out dfsbythenumbers.com. That's where you'll find all my other content behind the scenes. I do have 2 early bets as well. I bet an underdog, and then I also bet a total so far. And yeah, I'm going to have a lot of action for this card. Didn't have much action last week, came out with slight profit. But this week is, the big talk of the town, right, is we're going to be in very high elevation in Mexico City. So I kind of want to attack these gassers. I kind of want to attack these guys that typically slow down in general, but put them in elevation, and let's see what happens. Daniel Lacerda. I'm talking to you, Daniel Lacerda, right? So, yeah, I think there's a lot of great opportunities to make some money this week. Some spots definitely sticking out. But, yeah, I think we should get into it, guys. And we're going to start. Oh, how could I forget? Got to announce the contest winner from last week. We did the Significant Strike contest. Shout out to Erik P. With a Significant Strike guess of 83. He was one off. So, shout out to you, Erik. Was able to hit him up, or he hit me up, and was able to get him his winning. So shout out to Erik there. I'll be doing more contests in the near future as well. All right. So yeah, did not want to forget that. Shout out to Erik for being very close. There was actually a tie, but the tiebreaker did go to Erik there. All right, guys. I say we get right into it. We're going to start with Muhammad Naimov going against Erik Silva. We got Naimov, 29 years old, 5'9", with a 70-inch reach, 10-2, and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Erik Silva, 36 years old, 5'9", with a 71-inch reach, 9-2, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. So we'll take a look at the odds here. We have Muhammad Naimov opening up minus 265. He's currently sitting minus 300. Erik Silva opened up as a plus 200 underdog. He's currently at plus 250 there. And yeah, this is a fight that, honestly, it doesn't make a ton of sense to me, right? Like, Naimov came into the UFC on short notice, up a weight class, and pulled off the biggest upset of the card at the time against Jamie Mullarkey. Jamie Mullarkey was like minus 500, and yeah, Jamie Mullarkey was winning the entire fight up until Naimov landed a big shot, but still, great upset, great win, great debut performance, right? And then he goes and fights Nathaniel Wood, who's a very good fighter, very talented fighter, maybe a little bit undersized, but, great fighter nonetheless, great win. That's an incredible win. And then he is taking on Erik Silva. I mean, this is a step in the wrong direction, like a step in the wrong direction, like what's going on here? Like, Erik Silva, Erik Silva, there's not much to say. I mean, really all I need to say is Erik Silva got finished by TJ Brown, and I could leave it at that. I could move on, because that was a horrible look, man. I mean, this guy is submission over position. He's making mistake after mistake on the ground. He gassed out in like 5 minutes. I don't think he has the best cardio. So, yeah, I mean, it's hard to pick Erik Silva here outside of, I don't know, maybe catching Naimov early, but Naimov's never been finished. So, yeah, this should be Naimov really however he wants. I think he can definitely hang in the grappling. I think early on, maybe Silva might have some success in the grappling, maybe, but, as this fight goes on, although I don't think Naimov has the best cardio, it's still a lot better than Erik Silva, who has about 5 rounds of gas. So, yeah, give me Naimov here. I'll take Naimov to break Erik Silva in the second round via TKO. Moving on, we got Felipe dos Santos going against Victor Altamirano. We got Felipe dos Santos opening up minus 250, currently minus 275. Victor Altamirano opening up as a plus 210 underdog, currently plus 235. And yeah, this is one of those instances where I think we're doing the whole, overrating a fighter in a loss, because Felipe dos Santos made his debut on short notice against Manuel. And yeah, he definitely fought above expectations. A lot of people thought that Kopp was probably going to run through this guy. Like, who the heck is Felipe dos Santos, 22-year-old kid coming in here? And yeah, he was he lost the fight clearly. I think it was 30-27 on 2 of the judges' scorecards. I think one judge maybe gave him a round, but he definitely had his moments, and it was a fun fight. Everybody enjoyed it, and he was able to go the full 15, showing a ton of toughness. But going back and watching his fights outside of that fight, I mean, there's a ton of red flags. I don't think he has the best takedown defense. I don't think he has the best get-up game, and is that going to be something Altamirano exposes here? I'm not so sure. I mean, Altamirano can wrestle a little bit, but just doesn't have much control when he does get fights down the mat. So I think this fight primarily does play out striking, and when it does, I do favor, Felipe dos Santos. Maybe not minus 275, but I love the volume of dos Santos, the variety that he brings to the table. I love, I think he's going to have the harder hitting shots. Victor Altamirano's not a power puncher outside of, when he's fighting Daniel Lacerda. But yeah, Felipe dos Santos, he's much younger, 10 years younger at that. The only thing that worries me about about Felipe dos Santos is, these shoot-to-box guys are arriving to Mexico City late. The 3 shoot-to-box guys. So we have Felipe dos Santos, we have Daniel Lacerda de Silva, and then we have Mateus Mendonca. These guys arrived, I want to say like Saturday or maybe Sunday, which I'm pretty sure that's the latest anybody else has arrived on the card. So that might be something to mention. But yeah, give me Felipe dos Santos. I do think this fight plays out closer than this line does indicate. But I think the volume, the damage should be enough to get Felipe dos Santos a decision win here. Moving on, we got Luis Rodriguez going against Dennis Bondar. We got Luis Rodriguez, 24 years old, 5'6", with a 65-inch reach, 16-2, and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Dennis Bondar, 31 years old, 5'6", with a 69-inch reach, 19-4, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. We have for Luis Rodriguez opening up plus 145. He's currently minus 105, and the Dennis Bondar opening up minus 170. He's currently minus 115 here. So yeah, Dennis Bondar has just been very disappointing, since coming into the UFC. This is a guy that prior to the UFC came in, he was 19-2, which, on paper, that record looks tremendous. I mean, incredible record, 19-2 guy. Some people are excited about him. He came in against Malcolm Gordon as like a minus 300 or so favorite. But, you dig into that record a little bit more, and it is very fraudulent, in my opinion. This is a guy in Bondar who has 23 fights, and I think like 8 or 9 of them, the guys didn't even have a win on their record. And I'm pretty sure like over half of them, the guys didn't even have a winning record. So, and on top of that, it wasn't too long ago, this guy Bondar fought like an 0-2 guy, I think it was like 2020 or 2019. So yes, the record on paper looks really good, but just against very low level competition. And then he takes a step up competition against Malcolm Gordon, and he loses that fight, due to injury, but he wasn't looking good in that fight against Malcolm Gordon. Malcolm Gordon was actually having some success in terms of stuffing the takedowns, getting couple reversals, standing back up. Just wasn't a good look to me. And then what really did it for me was that Carlos Hernandez fight, where I am not a big fan of Carlos Hernandez at all. I actually thought, hey, that might be a good matchup for Dennis Bondar. Carlos Hernandez is a guy that I don't think he has great takedown defense. He got taken down in every single UFC fight, right? Outside of the Tyra fight last time, but everybody's taking this guy down, and Dennis Bondar really struggled in that fight. He was not able to really get takedowns. He was not able to get any control time. He was like 2 for 5 or 2 for 6 on takedowns in that fight. Got outstruck, and then in the third round, there was like a clash of heads on the slam, right? And it ended up going to like a decision. But my gosh, I mean, it was brutal. Like, that was probably one of the most brutal knockout. I mean, he was knocked out, but I mean, it was brutal. I don't know who the heck was reffing that fight, but whoever was reffing that fight probably should be in prison right now. Was it? It's not even. Jared Valel. I mean, this guy, he was knocked out on the slam. It looked like with the head clash. And then this guy took like at least like 10 unanswered, just hard shots. I mean, how do you recover from that? So I'm definitely worried about Bondar. I'm worried about his durability. I'm worried about, is this guy legit or not? As far as Luis Rodriguez, this is a guy who, I think a big talking point this week is that he lost to Jerome Rivera. But I went back and did watch that fight. It was 4 years ago. I thought he won the fight for what it's worth. But I mean, again, it was 4 years ago. And every fight since then, I was impressed. I don't know if it was because my expectations were really low for Rodriguez, because I did see that Bondar was a favorite, and I was like, how the heck is Bondar a favorite against anybody? But yeah, Luis Rodriguez, I think he's really good. I think he's getting a lot better, very well-rounded. I think it's a well-matched fight. I think this pick'em line, it does make some sense, but at least Luis Rodriguez, I think, is going to have the better cardio. I think he absolutely has the better durability. I think he has really good scrambling ability. I don't think Bondar is going to be able to take him down or hold him down. I think the striking is going to play out close. So with that cardio advantage, I do like the fact that Luis Rodriguez has been in Mexico City for the last 6 weeks. I like that. Denise Bondar, where's his head at? I mean, just getting brutally knocked out in his last fight. I'm going to take Rodriguez here for the win. I'm going to take him to win by late finish. I think Bondar might have some success early, but I don't think he has the best cardio. I don't think he has the best durability, and Luis Rodriguez seems to be putting it together. So give me Luis Rodriguez to win this fight by third round submission. Moving on, we got Fares Ziam going against Claudio Puelles. We got Ziam, 26 years old, 6'1", with a 75-inch reach, 14-4, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Claudio Puelles, 27 years old, 5'10", with a 72-inch reach, 12-3, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. We have Fares Ziam opening up -225, currently sitting -205. Claudio Puelles opening up +190, currently sitting as a +175 dog. And yeah, I mean, I think they're, you can make a case for kind of both sides here. I mean, I think there could be some recency bias here just due to the fact that, holy crap, did Claudio Puelles look just atrocious against Dan Hooker. And I know a lot of people that were on Claudio Puelles against Dan Hooker, right? Dan Hooker was only like -150 in that fight, and he looked -10,000. I mean, it was just a horrible look for Claudio Puelles. He was getting hurt. He was pulling guard. He was flopping to his back. I mean, it was just a terrible, terrible, terrible performance. But up until then, this guy was on like a 4 or 5 fight win streak. This guy was going out there submitting guys. There was maybe some hype starting to build with Claudio Puelles. So, but yeah, that Dan Hooker performance, I think, left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, and rightfully so. But, we got a striker versus grappler matchup here, where on the feet, yeah, Ziam's the better striker. With that said, though, he's so low volume. He doesn't have a ton of power. He doesn't have a ton of urgency, so I don't think Claudio Puelles is in much danger on the feet. Is he going to lose minutes? Absolutely. But is Ziam going to knock him out? No. Is Ziam going to knock him down? Probably not. And then on the mat, I worry about Fares Ziam. This is a guy that's been finished in 3 of his 4 losses. We saw Terrence McKinney get him down and submit him very shortly after. And Claudio Puelles, his whole game is based off around his BJJ black belt. I mean, this guy is an incredible grappler. The problem with Puelles is, yeah, he doesn't have the best wrestling. With that said, though, it's not like the worst wrestling in the world. Like, this is a guy that is averaging about 2.5 takedowns per 15 minutes. He's been working on that wrestling. He's been improving that wrestling. And he definitely has other ways to get it down to the mat. He'll roll for a leg, which I don't really like to see. He'll pull guard, which I really don't like to see. He'll take the back standing. But yeah, he can get takedowns. I can definitely see a world where Ziam is able to, keep this upright, stuff takedowns, just do enough at range to win a decision here. But I just have a feeling this fight is going to hit the mat at some point in time, and when it does, it's Claudio Puelles' world. So I'm actually going to take Puelles here as a dog. Hard to have a ton of confidence in the guy after the crazy stunt he pulled against Dan Hooker, but I think a path is definitely there for the guy. So I'll take Puelles here. I'll take him to win by second round submission. Moving on, we have Edgar Chairez versus Daniel Lacerda da Silva. 7. I mean, this is probably like the 7th time I've talked about this fight. We got Chairez. He is 28 years old, 5'7", with a 72-inch reach, 10-5, and 2-1 no contest his last 5 fights. Daniel Lacerda da Silva, 27 years old, 5'6", with a 70-inch reach, 11-5, and 0-4-1 no contest in his last 5 fights. Take a look at the odds. Chairez opened up -400, currently -350. Daniel Lacerda opened up +330, currently +275. I will never pick Daniel Lacerda in a fight for as long as he's in the UFC. With that said, though, he's a really fun fighter. I'm a big fan of Daniel Lacerda da Silva. This is a guy that just brings all action. 16 fights, all 16 of them have finished inside the distance. That's awesome for a flyweight. But, I mean, this guy has about a couple minutes of cardio. This is a guy that is a shoot-to-box guy that, like I said, these guys just arrived, like either yesterday or the day before. That's not great. Whereas Edgar Chairez, he's been in Mexico City, I believe, for like the last 6 weeks. So, yeah, Daniel Lacerda, put him in elevation. I think we're going to have some problems here because this guy gasses out in 2 minutes to begin with. How does Lacerda win? I don't know. He's going to have to be the first one to knock out Edgar Chairez. Chairez, 15 fights, never been knocked out. He has been subbed. We did see Daniel Lacerda da Silva go to the grappling a little bit in their first fight, and look what happened. He got caught, and I could see that happening here. I could see Lacerda maybe being competitive early on, because I think he's skilled. It's just he's only skilled for a couple minutes, right? You just can't win fights at the UFC level in the flyweight division when you only have 2 minutes of cardio. So it's got to be Chairez here. It's got to be Chairez in the second round, maybe even the first round, because we've seen like Victor Altamirano finish Daniel Lacerda in the first round. We've seen, the bad Figgy finish Daniel Lacerda in the first round. So give me Chairez here. I think he subs him in this fight. Hopefully it even happens, because this fight's been canceled and rebooked so many times it feels like. Moving on, we got Mateus Mendonca going against Jesus Aguilar. We got Mendonca, 25 years old, 5'6" with a 71-inch reach, 10-2, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Jesus Aguilar, 27 years old, 5'4" with a 62-inch reach, 9-2, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here. We have Mateus Mendonca opened up -110, currently -130. Jesus Aguilar opened up plus or -110, currently +110. And I'll be honest, guys, this is a fight where I've been flipping back and forth on the last couple days. At first, I was leaning Aguilar, and then I was leaning Mendonca, and then I was leaning Aguilar, and it's a tough fight to call because, Aguilar definitely does have a path to victory here. This is a guy that the 62-inch reach certainly does concern me. I think on the feet, it's pretty much one-way traffic, even though you take a look at Mendonca's striking numbers, and they're terrible, but they're terrible because he fought Basharat, and he got his face pounded in by Nate Maness. I don't trust the fight IQ of Mateus Mendonca, man. I mean, what the heck is he doing against Nate Maness? I mean, probably some of the worst fight IQ I've ever seen displayed in my life. And then it's not even that, though. You go and watch some of this guy's fights outside the UFC, and he's doing the same thing. He's making mistakes. He's submission over position. He's losing minutes on the ground, going for subs. And Jesus Aguilar, this guy is a great grappler. This guy can get takedowns. His wrestling's not too bad. So I can definitely see a world where Jesus Aguilar is able to win a lot of these grappling exchanges, win a lot of minutes on top, and either win a decision or maybe get a late finish. Mateus Mendonca, shoot-to-box guy, arriving quite late. Jesus Aguilar, I believe he's been, let me see here. Yeah, Jesus Aguilar has been in Mexico City for the last 6 weeks. So I like that for Jesus Aguilar, whereas we have Mateus Mendonca, he's kind of just arriving there. I don't know. It's a tough fight because on the feet, I do like Mendonca's striking. I think, on the feet, it's going to be Mendonca all day, especially with the 9.5 reach advantage. But I just have a feeling this fight's going to hit the mat. It's going to play out on the ground a lot. And both guys are solid grapplers. It's just I don't really trust the cardio of Mendonca. I don't trust the decision making of Mendonca. And I could potentially see an Aguilar sub here at some point. I think it could be late as well. So, yeah, I'm going to take Aguilar here with not a ton of confidence. Like I said, I've been flipping back and forth on this fight, but give me Aguilar to win this fight by 3rd round submission. Moving on, we got Raoni Barcelos going against Christain Quinonez. We got Barcelos, 36 years old, 5'8" with a 72-inch reach, 17-5 and 1-4 in his last 5 fights. Christain Quinonez, 27 years old, 5'8" with a 70-inch reach, 18-4 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Barcelos opened up -150. Currently -175. Quinonez opened up +130. He is currently +150. And I'll say this. If this fight was 3 years ago, I am max betting Raoni Barcelos without question. I mean, Raoni Barcelos a couple years ago beats the brakes off of Christain Quinonez. And maybe he even does here. It's just I don't trust Raoni Barcelos at this point. I really don't. 1-4 in his last 5 fights. Yes, he's losing to solid guys, but this is a guy in Barcelos who's a 36-year-old bantamweight, turning 37 in the very near future, and he could even be older than that. I mean, this guy looks like 46 if you ask me. I worry about the durability. I worry about the age. I worry about the cardio of Raoni Barcelos as well. We've seen him slow down in the past. We're in elevation. We've seen him hurt a lot more, later in his career. And Christain Quinonez, although I don't think he's the best fighter in the world, he has a lot of power, right? He has a lot of power. He's the younger guy by, 9 years. He made his debut against Khalid Taha, and Taha's a guy that's super durable. Like, Taha has a brick for a head, and he went out there and starched Taha. in the first round. It was a very impressive performance. He then goes out there and gets club and sub by Kung Ho Kong, which is wild. But still, this is a fight where I don't trust either of these guys. I don't trust either guy's durability. Christian Quinonez has been finished in all 4 of his losses. We've seen Barcelos finished multiple times as well. The durability, I think, is not where it needs to be for Barcelos. The conditioning is not where it needs to be at this point as well. I'm going to take Quinonez here to land a big shot and knock out Barcelos. I think somebody is getting served here, though. Both these guys both these guys I do think can be finished, but I'm going to take the younger guy in Quinonez with not a ton of confidence, because like I said, if this fight was a couple of years ago and we were getting Barcelos in his prime, I mean, this is Barcelos all day. I just don't think he's in his prime anymore. I think he's getting towards the end of his career, and quite frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if this maybe even was Barcelos' last fight, and he retires. This guy's 1-4 in his last 5 fights. Only win comes against Trevin Jones. So I'm going to take Christian Quinonez. I'll take him to win this fight by first round knockout. Moving on to the next fight, we have an absolute banger, I believe, to kick off the main card. We got Manuel Torres going against Chris Duncan. We got Torres, 28 years old, 5'10", with a 73-inch reach, 14-2, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Chris Duncan, 30 years old, 5'10", with a 71.5-inch reach, 11-1 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Manuel Torres is the favorite, opened at -200, currently -140. Chris Duncan opened up +170, is currently a +120 underdog. And this fight should be fun. It is a Manuel Torres fight, and all Manuel Torres fights are fun. This guy has 16 fights. 15 of those 16 fights have finished in the very first round. Chris Duncan, he's a fun fighter as well, but I think he's, starting to fight a lot smarter. Chris Duncan, this is a guy in Duncan who, in a lot of fights, you'll see him go out there, bite down on the mouthpiece and stand and bang until one man falls. But we've seen in Chris Duncan's last couple fights, that's really not the case. He went out there against Omar Morales, took him down 5 times, controlled him for a big portion of that fight, won a decision. Against Ashmos, took him down a couple times. Was very, I don't want to say hesitant, but he was very, not as aggressive as you'd usually see for Duncan, right? Like Ashmos, I believe he hurt his either hand or he hurt something, Ashmos, in the first round, and Chris Duncan really didn't push for the finish. I mean, he fought smart. He's fighting smarter nowadays, and he's getting wins, which that's really all you could ask for. But, I don't know what's going to happen here, because Manuel Torres is a guy, I believe his nickname is El Loco, which, if you know any Spanish, Loco means crazy, and that completely describes this guy's fighting style. It's just crazy. It's just chaotic. He wants to go out there and stand and bang until a man falls. And if Chris Duncan obliges, this could be a very fun fight. But if Chris Duncan goes out there and cage pushes, this fight could potentially suck as well. So, but I do like Torres here, and here's why. Chris Duncan, this guy's very hittable. He's going out there and he's starting to wrestle for a reason. 49% striking defense. We saw him knocked down and knocked out by Slava Borshev in the second round on the Contender Series the first time. We saw Charlie Campbell drop him like 3 times in that fight. They credited Campbell with 0 knockdowns, but he hurt Duncan at least 3 times in that fight, and then Duncan was able to knock out Charlie Campbell cold. So we've seen Chris Duncan hurt. We've seen him knocked out, and he's taken on Manuel Torres, who just has a ton of power. Torres has been finished in both of his losses, but both of those come by submission in the first minute of a fight, right? I think Torres is probably the more durable guy. I think Torres might even have maybe has the better cardio. I don't know. We haven't really seen Torres outside of the first round, but I don't think this fight even goes past the first round, to be honest. I think these guys are probably going to stand and bang because that's a Torres fight. I think Torres is going to draw Chris Duncan into that type of war, and I see Torres thriving in that type of fight. So I'm going to take Torres to win this fight. I'm going to take him to win this fight by first round knockout. Moving on, we got Yasmine Jauregui going against Sam Hughes. We got Jauregui, 24 years old, 5'3", with a 64-inch reach, 10-1 and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Sam Hughes, 31 years old, 5'5", with a 64.5-inch reach, 8-5 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We have Yasmine Jauregui, the biggest favorite on the card, opened up -300, currently -500. Sam Hughes opened up +250, currently +375. I mean, yeah, crazy odds here, to be honest. But I think it's a pretty good matchup for Yasmine Jauregui. I mean, they're not bringing Sam Hughes into Mexico to try to get her a win. I mean, they're trying to build up Yasmine Jauregui, who has a ton of star potential. I mean, she was on top of the world prior to that Denise Gomes fight. Like, people were really excited about Yasmine Jauregui, and then she gets starched in in like 60 seconds, which was a horrible look, but that's not really Sam Hughes' game. On the feet, I mean, I think it's just one-way traffic. Sam Hughes, very hittable. She's tough, but yeah, she's very hittable, and Yasmine's going to be the better striker. I don't really see Yasmine, I don't see Yasmine getting taken down here. Yasmine Jauregui has shown great takedown defense. She fought Lucindo, who's pretty good at getting fights down the mat. She was able to stuff every single takedown there, and haven't really seen her taken down outside the UFC as well. Was able to watch, pretty much all of her fights. So yeah, I think it's a fight that does play out on the feet, and when it is, I just think Sam Hughes is kind of outmatched here. I think for Sam Hughes to win this fight, she's going to have to maybe land something big. I do question the chin of Jauregui. She's been dropped in her last 2 fights, but yeah, Jauregui should be the better striker, more volume, more power, and I think she's live for a potential finish here. I think she can potentially put it on Sam Hughes and get her out of there at some point in the fight. So I'm going to take Yasmine Jauregui here. I think it's going to be an absolute beatdown. Minus 500, it's scary, but maybe she does look minus 500 when it's all said and done. So give me Yasmine Jauregui to win this fight by second round knockout. Moving on, we got Raul Rosas Jr. going against Ricky Turcios. We got Raul Rosas Jr., 19 years old, 5'9" with a 67-inch reach, 8-1 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Ricky Turcios, 30 years old, 5'9" with a 71-inch reach, 12-3 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here. Raul Rosas Jr. opened up minus 300. He is currently minus 270. Ricky Turcios opened up plus 250. He is currently plus 230. And yeah, I mean, I know some people are probably very low on Raul Rosas Jr. after that Christian Rodriguez loss. He was able to bounce back against, who was that dude? He was able to bounce back against Terrence Mitchell. Yeah, Terrence Mitchell, Alaskan FC vet Terrence Mitchell, and knocked him out in the very first minute of that fight. That win means nothing to me, but yeah, I do think it's a good matchup here for Raul Rosas Jr. Ricky Turcios, the takedown defense is subpar, and that's putting it quite nicely. 45% takedown defense on paper for Ricky Turcios. He was taken down 6 times by Brady Heastan, which, I mean, Brady Heastan, I actually like Brady Heastan. I think he's a pretty good fighter, so it's not the end of the world. What the end of the world is getting taken down 7 times in his last fight by Kevin Natividad. Kevin Natividad, who I'm pretty sure is cut at this point. Like, if Kevin Natividad is taking you down, 7 times, what is Raul Rosas Jr. going to do, right? I think Raul Rosas Jr. is going to have no problem whatsoever getting the fight down to the mat, and when he does, he's dangerous. He's very dangerous on the ground. He was able to submit Jay Perrin. He was able to almost get Christian Rodriguez out of there as well. So, and on top of that, Raul Rosas Jr., he's 19 years old. He's only going to get better, and I think stylistically, this is a matchup where he can go out there, get the fight down to the mat extremely easy, and when he does, it's going to be his world. So I think Raul Rosas Jr. does win this fight. I think he wins it by first round submission. Moving on, we got Daniel Zellhuber going against Francisco Prado. We got Zellhuber, he's 24 years old, 6'1" with a 77-inch reach, 14-1 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Prado, 21 years old, 5'11" with a 76-inch reach, 12-1 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Daniel Zellhuber opened up minus 450. He's currently, holy crap, minus 450. He's currently minus 275, and then Francisco Prado opened up plus 350. He is currently plus 235. Yeah, fun fight here. Daniel Zellhuber is a guy that I had really high hopes for coming into the UFC. I'm a lot lower on him now than I was, I'd say, but I still think he's a great fighter. He's 24 years old. I think he's only going to get better. But that Trey Ogden performance is always going to be in the back of my head. Just a terrible look there. But he's bounced back nicely. Got a submission win against Christos Giagos. Got a nice decision win against Lando Venata in a fight that probably should have been stopped as well. Yeah, he's a great fighter. I love the volume that he brings to the table. He's a very long-rangey guy. He's going to have a height and reach advantage in this matchup. He's taking on Francisco Prado, who I'm just not quite sure on as of yet. I don't think he's fought the best competition. Even in the UFC, fought Jamie Malarkey on short notice. Jamie Malarkey was able to take him to a decision, and then he fought Otman Azaitar, who I'm not that high on. The guy has power, but not that great. I'm kind of leading Zellhuber here. So there are 2 fighters on this card that I believe are either from Mexico City or really close by, and Zellhuber, I believe, is one of them, and I think the other one is Luis Rodriguez. Zellhuber, hometown guy. It could potentially be competitive, but yeah, I do like the long-rangey striking of Zellhuber. I like the volume, the cardio of Zellhuber as well. Sneaky power, sneaky submission game. I think he should do enough to go out there and win a decision. Could be, a little bit more competitive than this line does indicate, but I like him to win the decision nonetheless. Moving on, we got the co-main event. We have a 5-round fight here. Yair Rodriguez going against Brian Ortega. We got Yair Rodriguez, 31 years old, 5'11", with a 71-inch reach, 18-4, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Brian Ortega, 33 years old, 5'8", with a 69-inch reach, 15-3, and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. So we got the rematch here. Ortega opened up as the favorite, -150. He's now the dog, +150. Yair opened up +130. He's now the favorite, -175. And yeah, I have question marks about, Brian Ortega. This is a guy that, he's not typically that active. I remember he had like a massive layoff between, one of his fights and the Korean Zombie fight. Came back, looked great, but another big layoff here. I think it's been almost 2 years. I think it's like a year and maybe 9 months. It's been a long time since we saw Ortega, fight, and the last time he did fight was against Yair in a fight that didn't really last too long. So Yair has been the more active guy. He did go out there and beat Josh Emmett, which, by the way, that was an incredible performance from Yair Rodriguez. His striking looked better than ever. He looked dangerous. His grappling looked on point. Just very impressive win there. And then he gets knocked out by, Alexander Volkanovski, which there's really no shame in that. But yeah, we go back and watch the first fight. There's not much you can take away from it because the fight did end, late first round. But from what up until then, it was Yair Rodriguez doing a lot of great work on the feet. And I think at range, it's Yair all day. Brian Ortega, his striking's definitely improved, but he's so hittable. And Yair has so many weapons on the feet, like his kicks to the body, to the head, very powerful. And on top of that, like, if Ortega's not able to get the fight down to the mat, I just feel like Rodriguez is going to just have a field day here. We did see Ortega get Yair down, I think once maybe in their first fight, but wasn't able to really hold him down. Yeah, I got to go Yair here. I think he's going to be able to stuff a lot of these takedowns. Ortega's never really had the best wrestling, and on the feet, I just kind of think it's one-way traffic, to be honest. So I'm going to take Yair Rodriguez here to win. I'll take him to win this fight by 3rd round knockout. And then finally, we got the main event, Brandon Moreno going against Brandon Royval. I did do a deep dive on this one on the channel if you guys want to check it out. But we got Brandon Moreno, 30 years old, 5'7", with a 70-inch reach, 21-7 and 2, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Brandon Royval, 31 years old, 5'9", with a 70.5-inch reach, 15-7 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Brandon Moreno opened up -250, currently -250. Brandon Royval opened up +210, currently +210. And yeah, I think it's a great matchup for Moreno here. Moreno is a guy that has, 30 fights as a pro and never been finished, which that's incredible. When you take into account everybody this guy has fought, he's fought, so many different killers in the flyweight division. I mean, he's fought Davis in 4 of his fights, right? Never been finished. I think that's extremely important to mention because Royval is a finisher. Royval has an 87% finish rate. I think Royval is either like 1-5 or like 2-5 in decisions, right? So yeah, I'm not sure if Royval is going to be able to go out there and win a decision here. And I'm not sure if he's going to be able to go out there and like finish Moreno as well. I mean, we've seen Moreno hurt, a time or two. We saw Davison drop him 3 times at their one fight. Maybe Royval was able to drop him, but he's able to get him out of there. I'm just not so sure. So yeah, I mean, this should be Moreno here. Moreno has more paths to win, and the clear path here is going to be taking this fight down to the mat. Brandon Royval has like a 40% takedown defense. We saw Pantoja go out there, take him down, no problem in their second fight. We saw Pantoja take him down and sub him in their first fight. We saw Rogerio Bontorin take this guy down 8 times, and although Moreno's not the best wrestler in the world, he doesn't really need to be here. I mean, if he attempts a takedown, there's a good chance he probably gets it, and his grappling's very good. I think he can control Royval on the mat. I think he could potentially take his back and potentially even choke him out as well. So yeah, I like Moreno here. I'm just not sure what the path for Royval is. I think it's probably going to have to be him finishing Moreno, and it's just hard to really pick anybody to finish him Moreno. So I like the minute winning ability, especially on the ground for Moreno, and I'll pick him to win this fight. I'm torn between decision or submission. I don't know. I think I'm leaning more towards decision for Brandon Moreno, but I think he will get opportunities at a sub at some point as well. So we'll see. But there you go, Brandon Moreno. I'll say by decision. There you guys have it. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys can, leave a like on your way out. Subscribe to the channel on your way out as well. Check out dfsbythenumbers.com. And then also check out Prize Picks and use promo code DFSBTN and get yourself a 100% deposit match up to $100. Thank you guys for watching. Should be a fun card. I cannot wait for this card. I'm looking forward to attack some of these props, attack some of these fighters with durability issues, cardio issues, and make some money. Love cards like this. So best of luck, guys. We'll talk to you soon, and see you later.